My argument is for gun responsibility laws, and I would
Okay.
argue that that's not an infringement on the Second Amendment. That
Mhm.
really, when it comes to the Second Amendment or any amendment that you look at in terms of a constitutional right, that there are limitations.
So, like, what kind of restrictions or responsibility? Not responsibility laws. What kind of responsibility?
Well, the ones that are most effective are background checks.
Which you already
I'd
have
have to.
those.
Well, but we do have the private dealer loophole.
Okay, the private dealer would still have to have an FFL, so that's not a loophole. As far as if you mean private
No, private
sale,
dealers are not necessarily required to have a license, and if they don't have a license, then they are not required
so
to
you're
do a
saying like
background
private
check.
sale though, because someone who's a dealer
Correct.
is in the business of buying and selling guns.
I'm sorry if I said dealer, I meant seller.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, someone who's not required to have a license, there's no requirement to do a background check, which essentially means that someone can avoid it.
Is
I think I'm sorry, go ahead.
is it illegal in some? Okay, regardless if it's illegal or not, do you think that saying making that illegal, the sale of a private sale, do you think that will stop private sale?
I think that when private sales occur, then there can actually be there can actually be laws applied to private sales where people are held accountable for that.
How would you know
But
it's
for
happening
that,
if it's a
then
private sale?
essentially you would need then a licensing system in a national registry.
How would you know a private sale is occurring?
Because if a gun ends up being used in some kind of crime, that gun would
Mhm.
be required to be registered. And whoever, if it was registered to, you went to them and said, this gun is registered to you, you're now our primary suspect. If they said they sold it, then we have now known a private sale occurred.
Okay,
Unless they're
so
just lying, but they're guilty. So essentially, it would force someone to provide a background check or sell it back to someone with a license so that they can sell it to someone else.
okay, and I'm not. So let me ask you this: how many firearms are there in the United States that? All right, let me ask you: what is the percentage of
There's
firearms in the United States?
129 firearms for every 100 persons.
No, what I'm saying is how many firearms in the United States, or what percentage? Sorry, what percentage of firearms in the United States are used in a crime?
I have no idea.
Okay, so what I'm getting at, I would imagine, and I think we both would safely assume it's a very, 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 very low percentage. Correct?
Well, I mean, correct, but like I just said, there's 129 firearms for every 100 persons in America. There are literally
Mm-hmm.
more guns in America than there are people.
Yeah,
And that is something that is very unique to America.
it is.
And just like that is very unique to America,
Mm-hmm.
our gun violence is very unique to America.
No, it's not because actually there's far more gun violence in South and Central America. But as far as where I'm going with the percentage number is, if you were to make private sales illegal, let's say, well, you wouldn't know that the private sale is occurring. So if a very, 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 very small percentage of firearms in the United States are used in a crime, then actually a very, 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 very small percentage of the private sales are also used in crimes. And so you wouldn't even know if there's a private sale because most of the time, those guns that are in a private sale would never show up on anyone's radar because they're not being used in a crime. So it wouldn't change anything.
It would change. Like I said, it would hold people to be more responsible and more accountable when it comes to their guns.
No, it
And
would.
when we look at gun laws in general, when we look at gun laws, if we
Mhm.
look at gun violence, whether that is homicide or suicide, states that have the least gun regulation have the highest deaths per capita.
Okay, how many? What's the okay? The suicides, people are going to try and do that regardless. Does the firearm make it easier? Yes, but if you're getting to the point where you've decided to pull the trigger, then you've probably gotten to the point where you're okay with sitting in a car in a garage doing it too. So
No,
this,
no, that's incorrect.
you don't think so?
No,
Okay, well,
because
even
why
so,
would if
go
you
ahead.
you have access to a car, why wouldn't people just do that? Why are they choosing a gun?
I don't know why they do it, and I don't know why anyone gets to that point anyway. Okay, so that's a whole other issue. But
Right,
the
but you
point
can't
is,
make that correlation because
okay,
that is something
then
that people have available to
fair.
them currently, and they are choosing the gun.
Fair. So, but let's do this. Let's take suicide out of it. Okay. because again, we
Well,
can't
but we do
make
see
any
a
judgment
drop
on it.
in we do see a drop in gun related suicides. So I do
Gun-related
feel that is an
suicides,
important,
but does it
right?
drop in
And
suicide?
you know that gun related suicides affect men the most, right?
That's fine. I'm not white men
That's
too.
not
By the way,
fine.
white
That's
men.
not
No.
okay.
What I'm
If you
saying when
think
I
that's
said it's fine, I meant I agree. White men too, if you want to be more specific. But suicide, okay, is we just said we can't make any assumptions on why they did it, if they still would do it, right? But one thing is certain, that is not a part of gun violence, okay?
Well,
The gun
I brought
violence
that
is
up
the
because
murder
if you
and
want
the
a
negligence.
source, it does include both of those statistics when it comes
It
to
does.
gun homicide and gun.
And I think that
related
skews the
suicide.
red versus blue state argument, though, because if we look at gun violence in the hands of negligence and murder, okay, that completely flips it. That's why I say take suicide out of it. If you take suicide out of it, what is there, 19,000 or so guns?
I still wanted to include the statistic. Even if you would like to take suicide out of it, my argument still stands that
okay.
the states with the highest gun deaths per capita are states with the least amount of regulations, and they're actually the first 9 are red states.
What is the first 9 states? And then tell me what cities they take place in, and tell me who runs those cities.
It's state data, and like I said, this is per capita. I mean, number 3 is Montana, which is the state that I'm in.
Yeah,
and when it comes, like Montana
Helena
has a
would probably
very,
be the highest.
it's called Helena,
Helena,
and
whatever.
Helena is not the highest. Our largest city is Billings.
Okay.
But again, like Montana has less than 1 million people, which is less than, actually, we're just over a million, excuse me, which is less than the entire population of LA. So still, that's irrelevant. That's an irrelevant talking point because it's not these specific counties or local governments that are making these laws. It is state legislators, which are Republican.
I got it. Good. And I agree. So, but let me ask you this.
Then why did you bring that up?
Well, because it's concentrated, okay? And so it's concentrated in
Right, but
cities,
you said
hold on, let me
specifically
finish.
who runs urban communities to
Yes,
highlight that
because
this
what
is
I'm
like a
getting at is-
democratic issue when you
Yes.
know that these are state laws run by
Yep,
Republicans.
doesn't matter in my argument. So where I'm getting to,
No, that was a
okay, is that-
disingenuous take, but okay.
well, it's not because it's true. Is it not true that if even in red states, the highest concentration numbers and percentage wise,
That is irrelevant because those counties, the gun laws are not written by those local
I didn't
representatives.
say they were. Let me finish my argument, and I'll tell you where I'm going.
Okay,
with this,
sorry.
okay?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Because
my
we're
apologies.
assuming that guns are the problem and guns are not the problem. Why is it that these violent acts are taking place in a high concentrated areas in any state? It's because of certain
Where's your
problems
source
in
on
the
that?
city. Huh? My source? Okay.
Because the number 1 state with deaths per capita is Alaska. The second one is Alabama, Montana, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Arkansas, Wyoming, West Virginia, and then New Mexico. Wyoming is the least populated state in America. So this
And they don't have any
argument that you're
cities?
trying... Not if we look at LA, if we look at New York, your whole argument of cities is irrelevant. And again, show me your
it's not.
statistic
You
where
haven't let
in
me
these
finish
specific...
my argument of the cities. I said it's
well,
concentrated in the
so
cities.
just tell me your
regardless of the size
source
of
so
the
I can
city.
look.
Go look at a map. It's anything. It's just true. This is 100% true.
Show me the statistic that says where these gun deaths are taking place and that they are in urban areas.
I didn't say they are in urban areas. The majority of them. Look at how many
Then
people
show
died in
me
Chicago
your-
last year
then-
as opposed to other cities, other
Chicago
areas of
is
Illinois.
Chicago is not even in the top 25 list of most
I don't
dangerous
care if it's in the top 25.
cities.
I'm asking you. Take how many gun deaths there were in Chicago, then take the total amount of gun deaths there were in Illinois. Would the majority of them occur in Chicago?
The reason no, but so you're trying to make a distinction without a difference. So if we look
No, I'm
at
not.
Chicago, if we look at Illinois, a majority of the guns that were found came from Indiana. They can
I don't
actually
care.
trace it back to
You
one
haven't let me
specific
finish my
gunshot.
entire argument, and you've interrupted.
Well, you just
interrupted
asked me
my
a question,
argument.
and so I was answering it.
Well, because let me go back to my original argument where I'm going with this, okay? Because I'm not wrong as far as it being a lot of it being concentrated in the cities. And
Well, then
again,
can I have that source, please?
Again, all right, someone please, and I just picked Chicago just to pick it, but Someone go say. Go look up
No,
how many gun
because
deaths were in Chicago. Go ahead.
I
find it up for me?
I gave you the list of 10 states that have the highest gun death rates per capita. And you said that these occur in urban areas within those states. And I would like that source.
Okay. FBI statistics they just said. But let me say something. Per capita per state has nothing to do with my argument. Can you let me finish my argument, okay? Because what I'm getting at is that the Democratic run cities, yes, they don't set the gun laws. I'm not arguing that they are. But I'm saying that they set other laws that cause problems in communities, okay, that are the reason that drives the gun violence. Because a lot of the shootings in Chicago are gang related, correct? And gangs revolve around drugs and the drug trade. And it's the crime community that has driven a lot of the gun violence. The gun is not the problem. It's the people that are the problem, and the culture in the city that is the problem. Okay, so I don't care if it's one state that has a higher per capita gun violence. Great, that's fine, but still, that's not taking away the fact that that city in the state has a higher concentration of that gun violence, and that's just going to happen.
They don't have a higher concentration. What you are saying is that they have more gun violence because there is more people, which sure, that makes sense. That's why you have to look at it at a per capita. And when we look at these states, when I just named off all those states, all of those big urban areas that you mentioned are not in these states.
I don't care what state it's in. It doesn't matter to me. I've never once said it did. I never once said.
You are just arguing volume, where you need to argue the gun violence per capita, because obviously places with higher, if there was a concert and I said that 10% of people at the concert got hurt, or there was another concert and 5% of the people got hurt, which concert did more people get hurt at?
The one, yeah, I know what you're saying.
I would like you to answer my question. Which concert did more people get hurt at?
The one with less people got hurt, but a lower amount of people there, because per capita rates.
So no, I gave you two options. There was one concert where 10%. There was one concert where 10% of people got hurt. There was another concert where 5% of people got hurt.
There's one with 10% of people got hurt.
See, now, when I give how many people were at each concert, if there were 10 people at the concert where 10% got hurt, that means only one person got hurt. Where if at the other concert there was 100 people and 5% got hurt, that means 5 people got hurt.
I know.
So actually, the one that had 5% had more people got hurt.
Yes, but per capita, the 10% one, which is what you're arguing, right?
No. See, that's my point, is you're saying that just because there are more people and there are more deaths, that is an issue, where I am saying, well, you have to look at a per capita.
Okay, so let me do this. I don't care about what state it is and what their gun laws are. So let's take per capita. Let's use the per capita argument. When you have a state, let's take Alabama, because I'm familiar with that. You have Birmingham and Montgomery. Then you have Tuscaloosa. All right. If you took out those cities, subtracted them, okay, the per capita rate in Alabama would completely plummet, because it's a lot of their gun violence is concentrated in those cities.
Show me.
So per capita, it's still.
Where's your statistic?
FBI statistics. Go look at the Alabama government website that shows that. It's all that is.
I would like something specific. I don't want to search for your homework. I can give you my specific gun deaths per capita where I am citing it.
Let me do this.
WorldPopulationReview.com. Like, I can provide you with information. I would just like your information.
That's fine. I'll go get it. Because I'm downstairs, but I don't have the
I can actually give you an FBI statistic as well that says people who actually own guns can actually cause more violence even when they're trying to be a quote-unquote good guy with a gun. For every one good guy with a gun, there are 26 other people who are not the good guy with a gun.
Wait, what? Yeah, because
there was one guy who heard shooting a block away and ran to the area and started shooting civilians, thinking that there was still an attack going on when he had already been, where he had already been taken out or, taken down.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. Let me get. All right. Now let's go Alabama gun deaths. All right. Now let's see if we can find where the city. So let's take, or we'll do this. Let's go to the one I said about the Chicago one and the Illinois one, because that'll be a quick one to figure out.
Chicago's not on the list I gave you. I would like the Alabama.
Again, I don't care what state it is. I said this. Like, you think I'm arguing about red and blue states? I'm arguing that.
I would like Alabama, or I would like one of the top 10 highest per capita.
So what's the first one?
Alaska.
Okay, Alaska. All right. So let's see. 42. Also, trying to find out the number of people that I'm going to use Anchorage. And we'll go. This doesn't have it. And what is your source, by the way?
On what?
Just where are you getting the numbers? What website?
worldpopulationreview.com/state-rankings/gun-deaths-per-capita-by-state.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to know the website. I didn't care about the exact thing. So let's see if I'm trying to find the number of they've tracked, like, how many gun deaths happened in Anchorage. It said 20.8 per 100,000 is what the gun violence rate was in Anchorage, but that's not what I'm looking for. And people in the comment section, if you're looking at this, let me know if you find it too, as far as certain things. I don't know if you'll be able to find the number for the specific cities there. Every year, all right. Which also they include suicide in that number. Which, again, I don't consider suicide a part of that. All right, what's the next state? Because Alaska, I don't see it for Alaska. What was the next highest?
So if you go to everystat.org, it'll give you it broken down.
I saw that.
What
I want to see is the number that happened in Anchorage, and subtract that from the total number.
It doesn't give you that statistic. It only gives you all of Alaska.
Because that's what's going to tell us, again, if I'm right or wrong. On
right. So I don't know if why everystat.org doesn't have it, why another website would.
I don't know why, but that's why I said let's use the.
Because it literally, just for Alaska, Montana, and Wyoming, which are all in the top 9. They don't break it down to county. They just break it down to the entire state.
Okay, but Chicago keeps track of it. That's why I was wanting to use that, because it's an easy one to show. So if we did.
Well, then you can go to everystat.org and it'll have it.
Okay. So let's see. Everystat.org is what you're using. 2021.
And I don't like disagree with you that necessarily these happen in urban communities. They're more happen in urban communities just because it's a denser population. Like that makes sense.
What I'm
But it
saying is that if
still
you subtract the
doesn't
urban,
take away my point.
what was your point? Was the higher per capita gun
The
deaths
point
occur in the
is
red
that
states?
when there is less regulation regarding guns, there is more
Mhm.
gun violence.
But what I'm saying, okay, is even per capita, even if you have a higher per capita rate inside any state, okay, if you eliminate the major urban areas, okay, out of those states, the per capita rate completely plummets. And
Why
I
would you do that?
Because my argument was that the major urban areas, okay, and the reason why the gun violence was occurring, and so the major urban areas, okay, were run by a certain side, and the policies of that certain side has nothing to do with gun regulation. It has to do more with certain economical factors, okay, and certain
Really?
things
So
that
we
have
have
caused the
gangs
crime
in
in those
Montana?
areas. Huh?
We have gangs in Montana. They have gangs
Yes,
in Alaska.
every state has gangs.
What gangs are in Alaska?
I'm sure they have Bloods and Crips in Alaska. They have them everywhere.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Drugs. Okay, Barrow, Alaska has one of the highest per capita drug use rates ever, like in anywhere. And that's the most northern.
So how
city.
many gangs are in Montana? Like, can you give me how can you equivocate Chicago to Billings, Montana, or to Anchorage, Alaska? Like, I feel like you're comparing apples to oranges. And again, I don't think that you really have any kind of source that supports this statement.
Okay. There's gangs everywhere. Are you serious?
Well, then give me your source.
Okay.
Give me
What
something.
gangs
Give me something
are
that supports
in
your argument.
Montana? All right. There's Crips. There's Norteños. There's Serranos, Latin Kings,
Okay,
Criollos, modern
so-
outlaws, folk nation gangsters, disciples,
So
MT,
now
working class kids, white
correlate that with me with the gun violence.
I'm saying that where these gangs are concentrated.
That feels like it's kind of a little racist, in my opinion.
Oh no, it's not
Yeah.
racist. It's a fact. It is not racist
Then
at all.
give me
because not all
your
gangs are
source
black.
that gangs in Montana are the reason there is gun violence.
Yeah, a big reason. They are responsible for a lot of
Just
gun
give
violence
me your
everywhere.
source. Like if I can read this somewhere, if you can show me that because of all these elements in all these states, I will concede.
Okay. Give me a second because I have to find the crime rate in Montana. Let's see. Let's go.
I don't know what the crime rate would have to do with anything. Like,
Well, hold on.
I'm sure. Did
okay,
you read
you're
this
right.
somewhere?
Hold on. Gun murders in Montana. And let's see if we can find out how many of these are gang related. Let's see your every stat thing here. It says so in Montana, the gun homicide rates are highest among white and then American Indian, Alaska Native. Let's see if we go.
Correct.
I'm trying to see if they have anything about who's causing any of the.
Yeah. So would you say that more than likely our indigenous population resides on reservations?
Oh, and they can't have gangs?
Well, your argument is that these are in urban areas and our reservations are not urban areas.
No, but I said it was gang related too.
But you're saying that it's also urban areas.
It is for the most part, yes.
Great. So if these are
but
urban
you can
areas, if these are gangs in urban areas, could you acknowledge that most likely our indigenous population is on reservations.
Yeah, they are. I'm not saying they're not.
Now, I live in Montana, and I will tell you our reservations are not
I know they're
anywhere
not.
near urban
Yeah.
areas. So, again, how do you make that
Okay,
correlation?
but then that still goes to my overall argument is that the guns aren't the problem. It's the crime that's driving the gun violence. Therefore, the crime on the reservations, which happens, by the way, in certain economical policies, that drives gun violence, and guns have nothing to do with it.
Gun regulation has everything to do with it. That
No,
is
it
my
doesn't.
point. That is the point
Gun-
that I'm trying to make. Yes, because consistently we see that when it comes to gun laws, when there are more gun laws, there is less gun violence and deaths.
No, that's actually false. Why? Because think about this. Like I said earlier, have guns not been owned by a large majority of the American population since we became a country?
I don't know.
Yes, it has.
I can't tell you. Like, I don't know when there became more guns than people.
Okay, that is besides the matter. I would say that as far as a percentage of ownership, like how many people own it, and I could be a little bit off, but it's either very, very, very similar. Okay, and you can probably find the number. I don't know. Go see how the percentage of Americans that owned a firearm in 1776 or let's say 1800, as opposed to now. Hell, it may even be a lot higher per capita. And so you're telling me that more people per capita could have had guns back in the day when there was a lot less regulation, and gun regulation has done nothing but increase as far as numbers. Like, it has compounded over time, yet we have more deaths with firearms.
Well, we have more people.
But hold on, it doesn't. Okay, yeah, we have more people, but gun ownership per capita was higher way long ago, which means you had more a higher percentage
Really?
of the
Could you
population
tell
that
me?
had
Could you be a
firearms.
little bit more specific in that language?
What do you mean? Like what? What do you want me to be more specific with?
Can you tell me when we had more guns in America per, because right now we have 129 guns per 100 people.
Okay.
And you're saying that there was previously that number was higher. Is that right?
As a percentage of the population, I think it could, I would imagine it is, but we can look it up for sure. Let's see, because I'm not 100% sure. Let's say percentage.
Well, didn't you just say that previously there were more that there were more guns?
Hold on. No, I said there was more gun ownership per capita.
What does that mean?
Because okay, so now you don't know what per capita means? All right.
No, when you say there's more gun ownership per capita, are you saying that more people owned guns, or are you saying
Okay.
that
If you had
people
two
had
people-
more
if you had
guns?
two people and there was 100 guns split between the two of them, right? But one person owned 99 guns, the other person owned one gun. All right.
Okay.
So your number you gave about how many guns there are per the population, the 100,000, right?
Per
A lot of
100.
that is concentrated into the hands of roughly less than 50%. If you go off the statistics of the entire country and how many adults own firearms, right? So to say that, well, when you have more guns, you have more gun violence. Well, it's hard to really measure that in the first place. Because
My argument
guns are
is
concentrated.
that when you have less gun laws, you have more gun violence.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that back in 1800, right, what I think you would have had was, because guns were a much more necessity for the daily life aspect, okay, back in like 1800, because people actually had to hunt for their
Could
food.
you tell
and
me
things.
what guns were available in the 1800s?
You had the Kentucky long rifle, the Pennsylvania rifle. You had things
Were
like
they
that, yeah.
semi-automatic?
By the 1800s, we had semi-automatic weapons, yes. Or we had,
What-
sorry, we
what
had
did we-
repeating rifles, not semi-automatic. We had repeating rifles, and I think the
Okay.
Gatling gun
Do you
was
think
created in
the
1900.
do you think the addition of semi-automatic weapons has changed anything?
No,
No.
absolutely not.
Okay. Why not?
You know why? Because first of all, let me see. Okay, when it comes to semi-automatic, what are you trying to argue with that?
that essentially when it comes to semi-automatic rifles, we have seen more gun homicide because you are able to essentially just keep pulling the trigger. So you're able to kill more people easier.
Okay. So, no. Because we could own Tommy guns back in the turn of the 1900s, and the murder rates were far lower. And a Tommy gun is a fully automatic weapon.
So would you be okay with everyone just owning muskets?
No. You know why? Because we don't own firearms here, okay, for the purpose of hunting or even self-defense. We own weapons for the purpose of protecting us, the people, from a tyrannical government, be it our own government or an outside government. Which means when they wrote the law, or not the law, sorry, the protection of the right into the Constitution, we had just come off a revolutionary war against, at the time, what was our government, okay, that we fought against. And by the way, the Kentucky long rifle and the Pennsylvania rifle, I explained this earlier in a previous live, was far more advanced than the musket that the English military used. Because we could sit back because of rifling at 400, 500 yards.
So I could argue, I could argue that when the Constitution was written, that having an armed citizen, an armed population could prevent from the government overtaking. But today, you are telling me that we can outmatch the United States military with guns.
Yes, absolutely. You know why? Because you have to make two assumptions. One, all right, is that
not only the United States military, but you must acknowledge that the only thing our government would have to do is essentially turn off our water and stop the distribution of food.
So that's the thing. You're assuming that everyone in the government would participate in that. And you're assuming that the entire military would participate in that. The military's oath that they take is to protect the Constitution, the people of the United States, not the government.
Well, then your own argument falls apart because then why would you need guns if the military isn't going to do anything? Like, why would you need guns?
Not all the military, but I would say, let's just say 50%. Even a small portion, it doesn't matter. But because look at the Civil War. I showed this earlier. Robert E. Lee, okay, was a very, very, very high-ranked and well-respected person of the U.S. military prior to the Civil War. And he chose to fight for the South only because his home state was Virginia, and they were a Southern state. That's it. And so you saw high-level leadership in the military, okay, leave and go fight
again. This is during the Civil War. So
why would that be any different than what it is now?
I'm talking about. You're telling me that when it comes to the United States military and the advancements of weaponry that we have in 2022 today, that comparing it to the technology and military level of 1868 is equivalent?
No. The concept is the same. Because what was high-tech then, you're right, it's not high-tech now, but we have our own things. What I'm saying is that the people in the military and leadership in the military, not all of them, some of them will fight against us, not all of them will. Just like the people running our water supply and all that stuff.
Then you don't need your guns.
We do need our guns.
For what? How can you argue to me that the military won't take the command from the government?
Not all of the military.
So therefore, all of their all of their weaponry is irrelevant.
Okay.
But I still need my guns?
Let me ask you two questions. Did I say all of the military is the first question?
I'm saying that your own point dismantles your own argument.
It's not, because you're taking my point that I said part of the military. I even emphasized that part of the military would fight with us and part of it would not. You took it and said that the entire military would fight against the government, therefore we don't need the guns. That's not what I said. Okay?
No, I'm saying that. So are you saying that essentially the military won't attack the citizens?
I said part of the military won't, and part will.
Okay.
Okay? And like you said, outside sources will. But let me ask you this. With all of that technology that our government has, all of that great technology, right? Nuclear weapons, all that stuff. What would be the purpose of suppressing an insurrection if you were going to blow everyone to hell and not have anyone to govern after that?
Well, I didn't say nukes.
Any technology.
I just said when it comes to the citizens, in terms of an army or the resources that we have, we would essentially be unmatched to the
But
government's own resources, power, and military. That was my whole point.
okay, and then let me
You
ask you
brought
this.
up that the government, wait, let me answer.
Go ahead.
You brought up that the government is going to take us over. Please tell me how that would work. Like, tell
I
me,
did
give
not.
me the strategy.
Isn't that
Yes,
not
because
bad
you
faith?
said
Like, isn't not the definition of
you
bad faith
said
what you're doing?
we need our guns to protect ourselves from the government. So tell me, what strategy would the government go to?
What do you mean? What strategy would they go to? Okay, they could do a couple
Give
different things.
me give me a hypothetical where the government tries to overtake its citizens and we have guns.
Okay, great. Let's say, because this is a tough one. Because if you look a lot different, let me think. How about let's take Ukraine. In 2014, okay, the U.S. and we're not going to get into the whole history here, but basically, because of a coup against the government, all right, the U.S. gets involved, replaces the standing government, and so the people in eastern Ukraine that were like Russian leaning did not like that because their person that they had voted in had a coup formed against them, and he was overthrown. Okay, so what do? Is they start a civil war, and with that civil war, Ukraine starts using actual military, fighter jets, all of that stuff against the people in eastern Ukraine. All right. And guess what? They were able to fight their government. So that could be a lot of what we see here. And then you have Russia coming in to give support to them. So even if the entire military fought us, you're thinking that no other country would have an interest in helping someone fight the U.S. government?
That's not what I asked you. That's not what I asked you.
Okay, you asked me how it would look like. I would say it would probably look somewhere similar to like what happened in Ukraine or some other countries. It'd be a lot different though because of the scale and how large the U.S. is. But not all of the military would fight against its citizens. Some would, and they could go and get NATO countries and the UN. But I have never once said the entire military will fight for us. And you keep telling everybody in this line
that's an irrelevant point. That's an irrelevant point.
It's not irrelevant. That is an extremely important point.
Can I say something real quick?
Because that's not my point. Yeah,
Hello?
just
Can I
one
say
second,
something?
Belinda. Let me just make sure because I just want to really like hold him to this point.
You're good. Go
You
ahead.
said that we need guns
Yes.
in order to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. So
Yeah.
I'm asking you, give me a scenario where our government would become tyrannical and that our guns would prevent them from doing so.
Okay. How about if let's say they start taking guns away, or they do something to limit access to them. Okay, and then they start going around and confiscating and restricting more and more of them. All right. So they start disarming the population. Then let's say they say, well, you know what? We don't like that people are able to speak out on social media, saying, I'm just going to say, like, say things like fuck Joe Biden, right? That's dangerous. We take that as a threat. So they start going around and arresting people for saying things like that, which is not illegal. That's not a threat. It's none of that. Okay? That starts getting tyrannical. Then how about they start doing, well, you know what? We're going to arrest you for these little things, which then when you get that arrest record keeps you from finding some kind of employment, finds you from, it makes you maybe have a lot of fines. How about if they start imposing taxes, okay, for crazy things? Like, okay, we're going to do a 120% gas hike or gas tax hike, or we're going to start taxing income at 90% for everybody, or we're going to fine you every time you walk down the sidewalk or jaywalk $5,000. Okay, little things. It starts building up. Okay, and so when it builds up and builds up and builds up, that becomes a violation of your freedoms. You gotta understand, we are a free society. We're supposed to be a free market society, which means I should have the right to decide what I want to do. Okay, how I want to do it, especially economically. Let's say if I get paid money, how I spend my money, where I work, okay, all of that stuff. It's the freedom and voluntary choice to participate in the economy and political freedom as well. And any time that a law is imposed on me that inhibits my ability to do that, that is tyrannical. And so, it's maybe you may not understand.
You literally said nothing in that entire speech. You literally said nothing.
Because
the government wouldn't even have to, in your own example, own example, the government wouldn't even have to have seized your guns in that aspect.
Because it doesn't
they could
matter.
still
Just
use,
because they don't seize the
they
guns
could
doesn't
still
mean they're
use. So
tyrannical.
tell me, how would
can I
your guns
speak at all?
help you from stopping the government on increasing taxes? How would your guns help you from stopping the government on fining you for crossing the street? How would their guns help you from stopping the government from preventing you get employment? Like, how would your guns help you?
Because it keeps them from imposing a whole bunch of policies. It makes them think twice about it. Because they know that if they piss enough people off.
All right. Go ahead, Belinda. Yeah, you can go.
Okay.
Go for it.
I don't think she
Okay,
understands.
I'm going to speak now
Go
because
ahead.
I'm going to let you know, RC.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, as we speak, these people in here are sitting here recording, and they're going to make a mockery out of you.
I
And
don't mind.
Miss Kenzie is the queen of doing that.
That's fine.
I've seen her do it.
Miss Kenzie is welcome in here.
I don't
care.
even.
I guess-
Honestly,
Thank you,
I don't even know
RC.
why you're.
I didn't know you knew me, Belinda. How's your mom?
Yeah, of course I did. You
What do I wanna
were
get at,
sitting
guys?
there. You were sitting there taping and listening to Duran's live in Tommy's room. So
I didn't
I'm just
record
calling it
Duran's
for what
live.
it is, Miss
that's
Kenzie.
okay, Belinda, and I appreciate it, and I'm fine with having this conversation with Kenzie. She's very intelligent, but I guess
But real quick,
yeah, go
because I want to address everybody in the comments. My mother is doing fine now that she already got done with Tommy. He's done.
ahead.
So just to let you know.
Good. Okay. Let me. I want you to acknowledge that I didn't. Let me to start my argument back over here and get to where I was going with this. I need you to acknowledge that I did not say the entire military would fight for us, therefore we don't need guns. Or did I say the entire military would fight against us and we need guns for that
I'll
reason
concede that point, RC. If you
Okay.
can get over that, I'll concede it because
So because of that, no, but it's important. See, you're thinking it can't happen, but it does. History has shown itself time and time again.
I would argue that the Air Force, the Navy, like that would be enough to take out our. Like we would guns like don't give you aircrafts. And I mean, honestly, even if they took out like cell towers and power, like you don't have any upward mobility. You don't have any forms of communication. Like there's just
Is Russia
so many
technologically
ways.
more advanced than Ukraine, militarily wise?
I don't know what that has to do with this conversation.
Because it's a great prime example right now of what a very technologically advanced military, how they can't take over a city. They couldn't take Kyiv. By the way, how well did we fare out in Afghanistan when we were fighting people that looked like regular civilians? Didn't work out very well, did it?
Again, well, I don't know if you want to bring up Afghanistan, where we essentially replaced the Taliban with the Taliban, but again, like I don't know what your whole point is.
My whole point is that it's one thing to be able to fight a war against a population and kill a lot of people. It's another thing.
No
to be
one's
able
trying to
take
take
over
your
that
guns,
population.
RC. No one's trying to take your guns, and at in no point have I advocated for gun confiscation.
No, you didn't. But you're trying to make it seem like less gun legislation is a problem, and it's not. And then you try to discredit my
It
argument.
is a problem when it comes to gun violence.
It's not. Okay, let's go back to the cities because I may have gotten heated, but you actually debated in very bad faith. Okay, so let's go
Sure.
back to the per capita in the cities. I never said.
Let's do it.
anything about
Let's
red or blue
do it.
states. Okay, I've never said anything about red or blue states, have I? But-
You've said, look at urban communities and who runs those.
Yes. And why was my argument about those urban communities?
Because you wanted to point to the fact that Democrats ran them,
Okay. And what did I say was driving?
which is
The
a
gun
blue argument. So in a indirect way, you have brought up the red and blue argument,
Yes, but I didn't say that they made.
which
the gun
I think is
legislation.
very bad faith of you
No, it's not bad
to say that
faith.
you didn't. Well,
No,
to say
no.
that you didn't. You did.
Well, I did say that the Democratic policies in these cities are the cause of a lot of the violence. And that's true.
I could get on board that poverty can be a huge cause of violence. But again, when we look at per capita of each state, we already went over this in terms of like, look at Montana, that the highest population that succumbs to gun violence is our indigenous population, which is nowhere near urban areas. So it really is like, if you want me to, I'm trying to find, I feel like I had it downloaded as a PDF and I'm pretty sure it's on FBI statistics.
Okay.
But I can go
Look.
to it where we go per state. I tell
Okay.
you how many laws are in that state, and then I tell you what the per capita deaths is.
Okay.
And you can directly see the correlation.
How many?
When there are more laws, there are less deaths.
Okay, so in Illinois, there are a lot of laws, right?
Why do you keep bringing up Chicago?
Because it's an easy statistic to find. Okay,
I know it's an easy argument for you, and it's actually a really poor argument because I've already I already debunked it by saying that a majority of guns found in Chicago come from Indiana, where they do not have restrictive gun laws. They were actually, I believe, able to trace 75% of those guns to one gun shop.
Okay,
so if they had the consistent laws also placed in Indiana, then there would be the issue in Chicago would not be a relevant talking point for you. Let me ask you this. Sure, go ahead.
So you don't think that if, let's just say we made guns 100% illegal, you don't think criminals would get those guns?
I'm not advocating for that.
Okay, but you're saying that if you made them...
I'm not going to answer that because that's not what I'm advocating for.
But because you know it's true, and so that completely discredits your argument about Indiana.
It does not. It does not. You're strawmanning. You're strawmanning, RC, and that's very bad faith of you.
How am I strawmanning? What is this? Why am I?
I just told you because you are bringing up a point that deviates from my argument. Because my argument is not gun confiscation. What is the literal definition of a strawman?
I didn't say gun confiscation ever, and that's bad faith.
Okay.
You just said that.
You did. You just said if we make guns illegal, which essentially would be gun confiscation.
That's not confiscating them.
Well, if you have them, wouldn't you be breaking the law?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you're going.
So we would have to confiscate them if they were made illegal. Could you just do me a favor? Like, I need like a 4-minute break. Would you mind bringing Sanvi in?
I mean, that's fine, but that's kind of bad faith. I want to let you know that is very bad faith because I said if you made it illegal in my hypothetical, okay, that they would still get them. And you didn't want to answer that because you said that they were getting them legally.
Because I said it's a straw man, and that's what I want to ask Sanvi.
Let me finish. You said they were getting them legally in Indiana and that they should put regulations in Indiana that would cut out a lot of the crime. And I said that even if they put regulations in Indiana, the criminals will still get them and it won't change a damn thing.
No, it would, because why do you think they're going to Indiana?
Just because it's easy, but that doesn't mean they're not going to find
restrictions because there are restrictions in Illinois. So if there's restrictions in Indiana, then it prevents them from.
They'll go to
because if your own premise were true, then they could get them in Chicago, and they wouldn't have to go to Indiana.
They'll go to Wisconsin and get it. They'll go to another state.
If Wisconsin has the laws,
they'll get the guns.
Then it's a restriction.
They'll get the guns. How do you think Mexico and South America?
I already told you. I already told you. It's a straw man. And I think you should add something.
See, I asked you a question. You said you didn't want to answer it, and that's not really cool. But the bad faith thing is
I don't want to answer it because it's a straw man, and I demonstrated how it is a straw man. Because again, you are presenting a premise of an argument that I am not making. And that is the definition of a straw man, to where you try to deviate away from the point that is being presented. That is literally textbook straw manning. And if you can't admit that.
No, let me ask you this and I'll let you go. Do you truly believe that if you eliminated the major urban areas in every state, that the per capita rates of murders, homicide rates for firearms would not plummet?
No, because the per capita is per 100,000. So it's a control for population. But good talking to you.
All right. How's it going?
What's up?
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Go ahead now. Are you? Since we were talking about firearms, but we can debate whatever. But are you for or against what we were talking about? Are you? What's your stance on that?
I mean, I'm definitely same as Kenzie. That was a lot to watch.
Yeah. And I apologize. I actually still want to show people because I know I'm right as far as subtracting the urban areas. But I want to say something. Here. Hold on, I'm going to add someone else here.
Okay.
You're saying to add who?
I think it's the Sonvi person.
All right. So
Sonvi.
Yeah.
0.
What I wanted to say, all right, gun legislations or lack thereof proves nothing. Why? Because the Buffalo shooter went to a gas station, or not gas, a grocery store and killed people. And he chose that grocery store because of the gun laws and the excessive gun laws in that area.
That's a very individualistic take on this. Empirically, gun legislation has been shown to be effective. And before you come at me like you did with
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I carry. I have been shooting since probably I was a kid. I'm not anti-gun in any regard, but you disregarding gun violence as a problem in the United States
I didn't say it wasn't a problem.
It's very weird to me.
When did I say it was a problem?
We need more training. You said that passing gun control legislation doesn't do anything.
It doesn't.
It does. So I can cite peer-reviewed studies on this. So one of the first things from the World Population Review. So these are the gun deaths per capita that Kenzie was talking to you about. Also, by the way, you were talking about red and blue, but it's Mississippi, Wyoming, Alaska, New Mexico, Alabama, Louisiana, Missouri.
But my red and blue argument wasn't at the state level.
Montana.
My red and blue argument wasn't at the state level either. And that was very bad faith that she was assuming it was too, because it never was.
Don't you think they should at least somewhat vary per state? Because I think I would probably agree that it should vary per state.
No, what I was saying is that regardless of the state, the gun violence is still concentrated in the urban areas.
Why is that?
Like I said, a lot of it's crime driven, gang driven, stuff like that.
You're right. There's a correlation between poverty, violent crime, poverty, gun violence. Gun laws disproportionately harm Black and brown people.
Never said it wasn't.
That is very true. But it's not because of the gun legislation, it's because of poverty, right? So an urban area with upper middle class people residing in it have much lower rates of gun violence than urban areas with lower to middle class people.
What did I say? I never argued the gun legislation, though. That's where she wasn't listening. My legislation argument was the legislation as far as economic legislation and economic systems in these urban areas that drove the poverty and drove the crime, therefore led to higher gun rates or gun violence.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If there weren't things like gentrification, price gouging, increasing taxes on the middle class people, 100% the violent crime would go down.
That's what my argument was, but she wasn't hearing that. She wasn't letting me get there.
I think Kenzie 100% agrees with that.
She didn't agree with that at all. In fact,
I think you were saying a lot of words, but Kenzie definitely agrees that poverty and violent crime are intersectional, right? But it's not because of the gun legislation itself.
Yes, exactly.
And why does Chicago always have to be the talking point?
Well, so why would imposing more legislation, if it's not because of the gun legislation, be the answer instead of something else?
Because it's been empirically proven to be effective. And it's not, you're right, it's not the only answer. Other answers would be more welfare, better access to healthcare. Do you support those things?
No. In fact, so if we're going to have an economics argument, we can go down this road all day, and I wish you would have.
Sure. What's your contention? You don't support universal healthcare?
Nope. I don't, and I don't support the welfare either. Welfare actually has led to a lot of those problems that we're talking about. And this
But
is
you just
empirically
agreed.
proven.
You
by the
just
way.
agreed with me that poverty and violent crime are intersectional. So if we lift more people out of poverty,
Yeah, you don't do that
then
by,
the
by
violent
allowing
crime will
what welfare.
decrease.
Welfare doesn't do that.
You don't think welfare lifts people out of poverty?
No, in fact, welfare keeps people in poverty, and that is a proven fact.
Hold on. Okay, I have a study right here from 2021 about welfare and in the United States about lifting how many people out of poverty. Hold on. Yeah, federal assistance in 2021 lifted millions of people out of poverty, including children, and provided access to affordable health care.
No.
Supplementing.
I know what study you have. That's
Which one
okay.
is
I'm
it?
glad you brought that study up. So
What study is it?
I think you're actually.
Wait, what study is it? Who's the author? What's the title?
Sorry, I cut off. I think you're.
Wait,
you're
what
referring
study?
to what the Biden
What's
administration
the author's
was.
name?
I don't know the author's name of the study.
Do you know the
But
name
what
of
I'm
the study?
saying
Since
is-
you said you know what source I'm using.
No, I know what you're talking about though. So let me finish.
Oh, okay.
I think you're referring to basically what the Biden administration was talking about with the child tax credit and how that helped lift, what was it, however many children out of poverty because of the child tax credit. Because he increased the child tax credit and made it fully refundable, and he paid it out during the month and not at the end of the year. So, as far as that doesn't exist anymore because it expired. But that is what they're referring to when lifting people out of poverty was because of the child tax credit. You can go fact check that too.
To do with child tax credit. It was specifically talking about supplemental poverty measure, not the child tax credit at all.
What do you think the supplemental policy measure was?
And Medicaid, for example. Do you know what SNAP is? SNAP?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the food stamps, correct?
Yeah. And Medicaid as well. But even I don't even support like Democratic policies, but I support something to get people out of the cycle of poverty, which the best thing would be a UBI or some type
No,
of
it wouldn't be.
care.
No, it wouldn't be.
Why?
Nope. So a UBI, a universal basic income, okay, would only set a new floor of the minimum level. That's it. And
Yeah.
it would also increase inflation substantial amounts.
It is necessary that we set a new floor. The minimum wage now and the minimum earnings that people are making now are not keeping up with inflation.
It wouldn't keep up then either.
20 years. We're about 20 years behind what we should be in terms of what the minimum wage ought to be and how much people are making.
Oh, no. And by the way, Shendy says, oh, so he's an economist now? I have a degree in economics. I work in financial planning, and I have a bunch of licenses. So when someone was asking, now, okay, if you had a universal basic income, what would that do to the money supply in the United States?
Well, obviously, since the Federal Reserve would be producing more money, it would increase the money supply.
Which would do what?
Which would do what? Conversely, increase the inflation rate? Is that what you're saying?
It would substantially increase the inflation rate.
Yeah, I understand. An increase in inflation is always bad. They can still
Not
lead
always
to
bad. Depends if it's
You're correct.
overdone, excessive.
Economic benefits. I also happen to be an econ major too. I think one of the first things that you learn is an increase in inflation doesn't necessarily mean a decrease in the overall well-being of the economy.
No, but okay, inflation is only caused, okay, and I know there's 3 different types. No, there's only one thing of inflation, that is a rapid increase of money compared to current output. All right, so you have to have the increase in production to maintain or keep up with the output or the increase in the money supply. All right,
Sure.
If you did a universal basic income,